Okay, that shows our growth as a team. We got some things to clean up. We know that, but you can't beat a win on Sunday in this league, guys. Can't beat a win on Sunday. We got back to 3-3. We're right back in this thing. Now stay humble, stay hungry, be happy today. Don't be satisfied. I understand this feeling. I understand the feeling we got. I understand what we did in this room today. Different people stepped up. We did a hell of a job. We're going to clean up everything tomorrow. We'll clean it up Wednesday, and we'll get ready for Minnesota. Got to take down the coach.
Hell of a job, guys. Hell of a job. Keep it going. Let's go, Jets on 3.
Wait. Hold on now.
And the home of the Jets.
By SiriusXM. I'm Olivia Landis, joined by Eric Allen here at the Atlantic Health Jets Training Center. Be happy today, but don't be satisfied. That was Coach Todd Bowles' message to the Jets right after their victory over the Colts this past Sunday, and that's exactly what they did. They got back to work today. But something that's super interesting that we saw inside that huddle was defensive coordinator Rodgers.
Yeah, it was huge to get Rodgers back. He's missed the last 2 games for the New York Jets, but we saw him at the stadium at MetLife on Sunday. He broke the team down after the victory against the Colts. He's been with Todd Bowles for more than a decade. You got to go back to Dallas when they were both on the staff together under Bill Parcells. Then they were both in Miami together. And Rodgers has been Todd Bowles' right-hand man here with the Jets for 4 years. And oh, by the way, this defense is playing at a high level. You got to give Casey a lot of credit for that. And I know he's tremendously respected and admired inside this building. Undisclosed illness, we'll have to see if he discloses it tomorrow when he meets with the media. But Rodgers is back on the staff, and that is something for everyone here to celebrate.
Very exciting, not only for the Jets defense, but for Jets fans that Rodgers will be back on the field this Sunday. The Jets are officially 500 on the season following their victory over the Colts this past Sunday. It was a very exciting win as they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of that 1968 Super Bowl championship team. But overall, the most important thing is the Jets are now 3-3.
Yeah, Liv, a couple weeks ago, people were wondering what was going to happen with the New York Jets. They had lost a 31-12 decision to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then they were coming home for this 3-game homestand. Well, the Jets have taken care of business. They're 2/3 of the way home. They got a game on deck against the Minnesota Vikings. They jumped on the Colts early with that Morris Claiborne pick 6 and had 4 takeaways in all. And Sam Darnold played well as the Jets play complimentary football for the 2nd consecutive week. And they are back at 500. And you like what you're seeing from this team that is stepping up in terms of maturity.
They've now played 2 out of their 3-game homestand. Their final game will be this coming Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. We'll dive a little bit deeper into the Minnesota Vikings later in the show. Right now, something that head coach Todd Bowles mentioned to the media and in that post-game victory speech was how last year this team wouldn't have won that game. But this is a new team, this is a new year, and they did pull off that win.
Yeah, because it's been a question about handling success, and the Jets are a young group. So for a young group, the next test is how do you handle things after everybody tells you you look great against the Denver Broncos? Well, they came out ready to play against the Indianapolis Colts. They jumped on them early, and when Andrew Luck came back, as you knew he was going to do, because he's a great counterpuncher, the Jets had answers. And now they have back-to-back wins for the first time in more than a calendar year. We'll have to see if they make it 3 straight this week against the Vikings.
They scored on all three phases, all special teams with all the field goals, defense, like you said, Morris Claiborne had an interception return for a touchdown. And then, of course, offensively, the Jets really got back to business this past Sunday. Jason Myers set a franchise record, 7 field goals, 24 total points for the Jets. That was huge.
Double-edged sword. It's great. Myers has been one of the great stories here for the Jets. He came in after final cuts. They claimed him off of waivers. He's been doing a good job, not only in terms of his field goals, because he's been highly accurate there, 7 of 7 on Sunday, but he's been booming the ball through the end zone. So teams have not had the opportunity to return against the New York Jets. So 7 of 7, that was great to see. And the Jets put up 42 points. They crossed the 40-point plateau for the second time in just 6 games. Again, the week before, they had 34 points. But conversely, you want to see them convert more in the red zone this week. They were just 1 of 6 against the Colts inside the 20. That's the next step for the offense. But Myers has been quite a find for this team. And you got to give a lot of credit to Brant Boyer, because his special teams units have been doing a fine job throughout the season's first 6 games.
Yeah, someone else that's done an extremely fine job, Sam Darnold, had his best professional performance yet. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 280 yards. The guy threw the ball this past Sunday.
Yeah, he did. Listen, the previous 3 games before the game against the Indianapolis Colts, Darnold had completed 50% or less, but he came out and completed 80% of his passes against the Colts. He's seeing things better. He's reading quicker. He's getting out of the huddle faster, so he has more time to diagnose what opposing defenses are trying to do to him. And the other thing he's doing, Olivia, is he's getting more people involved. The week before against the Broncos, it was Robbie Anderson. Last week against the Colts, it was Jermaine Kersey, 9 catches. And you also had Terrell Pryor with 5 catches, and the tight ends had 4 catches. You had 2 catches apiece for Chris Herndon and Neil Sterling, who was back in the lineup. So he is an equal opportunity distributor of the football. Darnold continues to grow for the green and white.
Darnold having an impressive performance, and the offense as a whole a really impressive performance. Now I want to move on to who you have taking off for this game against the Vikings this Sunday.
Darren Lee is tied for the NFL lead in terms of interceptions. He's already got 3. He had 2 that first week against the Detroit Lions, including 1 that he made a house call on. And then last week, when the Colts were making a run in the second half, and the Jets needed to make a play, Leonard Williams got pressure on Andrew Luck, and Darren Lee made a great read, intercepted the ball, and really took away the momentum from the Colts there in the second half. And Lee has improved greatly in terms of his coverage, and we're seeing that. 3 interceptions on the year. He's taking those next steps, and that's what you wanted to see from the player in his 3rd season.
All right, EA. Well, Sam Darnold spoke to the media earlier today when he was asked what his connection is like so far with Jermaine Kersey. Here's what he had to say. No, excuse me, I'm sorry.
He's a great player. Jermaine's an awesome guy. As a player, he's really able to find those soft spots in the zones. I feel like he has a really good feel. Obviously, he's been in the league for a while, so he just has a really good feel out there. And, I feel like I can always count on him.
How tough is it with you? You have so many moving parts at receiver now because of the injuries. You're throwing to guys who maybe you hadn't thrown to a lot before. How does that impact you and your preparation?
Yeah, it doesn't change anything for me. I mean, I just got to know my personnel, know who's out there. But for me, I'm going through the same reads, same offense. So nothing really changes too much, just other than, personnel.
All right, Sam Darnold there talking about wide receiver Jermaine Kersey and their connection. Now I want to quickly jump to the Jets defense. We didn't get a chance to talk about them and their performance against the Colts this past week. They are currently 2nd in the league for takeaways.
Yeah, They have 15 takeaways on the season over 6 games. That's over 2 a game, and that's been huge in this defense's development. Very active around the football. We mentioned Darren Lee before. He's got 3 interceptions. He leads the team. Morris Claiborne's got a pair of interceptions. We saw him get the pick 6. Avery Williamson has been a great find for this team. He added an interception last week as well. Jamal Adams, he was very critical of himself after the game, but he had his hand on 2 takeaways, so he was part of that. Everybody is swarming to the football. When you have 11 guys swarming to the football and the Jets have been playing good coverage in the back end, good things are going to happen, and that pass rush has been there a lot this season. Against the Colts, the Jets did some different things. So you saw sometimes they were playing a lot of coverage in the back end. I'm not worried about the pass rushes. They've taken a lot of strides there this season. The takeaways is the #1 improvement as far as this defense is concerned in 2018.
After speaking to Coach Denard Wilson today when he spoke to the media, he talked about how physical these wide receivers for the Vikings are. You have Adam Thielen, you have Stephon Diggs. Adam Thielen with 6 straight 100-plus yard games. How tough is this offense going to be against these defensive backs?
Well, you mentioned it. You could say this Vikings wide receiver pair is the best in the National Football League. Thielen's amazing. He's had 6 straight 100-yard games. Stephon Diggs, he's more of your prototypical athletic guy, maybe more of a speed guy, but Thielen is quick. He's good at the top of his routes. They both can do a lot of things, but the Jets have got contributions from a lot of players in their secondary this year. And the other way how you can disrupt the pass game is by getting after Kirk Cousins. Cousins, while he was 24-34 last week in a win over the Arizona Cardinals, 7 of his balls were batted down at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be critical for the Jets' defensive line and the outside linebackers as they close in on Cousins. Even if they don't get to him, they got to get their hands up this week.
So let's expand a little bit more on quarterback Kirk Cousins. As a lot of Jets fans know, the Jets actually made a run for Kirk Cousins during the free agency. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings were able to snag him up, but he's been very impressive throughout these first 6 weeks now. He can throw the ball in the air, so is it more that the defense needs to get the ball in the hands of the running backs because that threat you have on the outside of the wide receivers, or do you want Cousins to be able to throw the ball?
The Vikings are going to do what they do, and they have a lot of confidence in Kirk Cousins, and they should. He's completing 70% of his passes. He's got 12 touchdowns on the year and 3 interceptions. The thing about Cousins that stands out is he's a gunslinger. So he is going to give you opportunities in the defensive backfield to make plays because he will force the ball at times. And over the years, if you look at Cousins' career, he's been a streaky quarterback. A lot of times so far early in his career with the Minnesota Vikings, he's been streaky hot, but it can go in the other direction. Like I said before, the Jets secondary are going to have opportunities to make plays in the defensive backfield because he has so much trust in his receivers. Don't forget about Kyle Rudolph, the veteran tight end as well. He's one of the better pass-catching tight ends in the National Football League.
All right, now we're going to go to EA was able to talk to offensive lineman Brian Winters on Inside the Jets this past Monday night. So it's not only the Jets defense that has a tough one ahead of them, it's also the Jets offense. He talked about facing up against a former teammate, Sheldon Richardson.
Sheldon Richardson, obviously a former first-round pick here, and you lined up against him a few times in training camp.
Yep.
What do you think it's going to be like in game action, you going toe-to-toe?
Yeah, we're going to be going at it. We always did. We always went at it in practice, so it'll be a good matchup. I'm excited to see him. You know, he's actually a good friend of mine, so it'll be fun.
Is he a big talker on the field?
Always, yeah.
What I remember from Sheldon,
Yeah.
he's a big talker.
Practice, games, doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah,
He's a competitor.
So you guys are going to be exchanging quite a few pleasantries.
I'm sure. For sure.
Welcome back to practice today, presented by SiriusXM. Olivia Landis and Eric Allen here at the Atlantic Health Jets Training Center. And we just heard Brian Winters talking about former teammate Sheldon Richardson. EA, what was it like to have that conversation with him back on Monday night?
Well, Winters and the Jets offensive line have done a nice job here early this season. But Sheldon Richardson, a former first-round pick of the New York Jets back in 2013 out of Missouri. He can be a disruptive player on the interior. The Vikings, as Winters told me, and Eric Coleman on Inside the Jets, they will attack that double A gap and try to get pressure on the quarterback. So this is a new challenge this week, but Winters is definitely up for the challenge, and he's looking forward to seeing his old friend. Listen, they've seen a lot of each other over the years, a lot of training camp battles. There will be a pleasantry exchanged or two between Winters and Richardson.
All right, heading into this Sunday against the Vikings, we have an injury update, and it seems like there are going to be a few guys that are out, some familiar faces that were also out this past weekend.
Well, the number one thing on the docket for the Jets when you look at the injury report is Quincy Enunwa. He is out, and so is Marcus May. Now, there are a list of guys who did not practice today, the other 7, but Todd Bowles ruled both Enunwa and May out of the lineup. Quincy Enunwa has a sprained ankle right now, and then Marcus May has a thumb injury. Those are the 2 guys who have been ruled out here early this week. But the Jets are dealing with some injuries, like a lot of teams in the National Football League at this point. We're entering Week 7, so we'll have to monitor the progress of those other 7 guys who did not practice today. They include Jermaine Johnson, who's missed the last 2 games because of a quad injury. Buster Screen remains in concussion protocol. Those guys, with them out of the lineup, the Jets have been relying on people like Darryl Roberts on the outside, who's been taking the place of Jermaine Johnson, and then Perry Nickerson, the rookie corner, who's been coming in and playing in place of Screen. And then with May out, it could be Doug Middleton. But the Jets did use Terrence Brooks out there at safety last week when May went down with that thumb injury.
It's always hard to see your starters go down. However, it is a great opportunity to see, next man up mentality. A lot of the coaches today talked about that, how every player has to have that next man up mentality. I actually spoke to safety Doug Middleton today, and he said having that starting time at the beginning of this season has really helped him, and he feels like him and Jamal Adams, their chemistry is really well in the backfield.
Yeah, and you can see it in the locker room. Those guys, they get along very well off the field just as much as they do on the field. Their communication is good. I actually followed up that conversation. I talked to Middleton, and he said, I don't even have to talk to Jamal sometimes. I know where he's going. So Middleton, if he does indeed get the start this week, I would anticipate him playing well. And then you're looking at some other guys. It's all hands on deck when you're playing a team like the Minnesota Vikings, who've struggled to get the run game on track early this season, but they did have 195 yards last week against the Arizona Cardinals. They'll try to have some balance, but when you look at them offensively, they're going to try to ride the arm of Kirk Cousins. Offensively for the Jets, a couple injuries we have to monitor include Terrell Pryor, because he didn't go today. He's got a groin issue. And Todd Bowles said the Jets are going to kick the tires on some street free agents out there. Maybe they could add a free agent receiver to the mix. We saw Jermaine Kearse step up last week. But with Enunwa out and Pryor dealing with a groin injury, maybe the Jets add another target.
All right, quickly, EA, closing thoughts on the Minnesota Vikings and the Jets. This is the final home game of the 3-game homestand that the Jets have, and then they hit the road for two weeks. So what are your final thoughts that the Jets have to do to find success at home?
You got to play complementary football. You got to disrupt Kirk Cousins. You got to keep on doing what you do offensively, and that means maintain that balance. Hammer home with that run game, and Sam Darnold continue to get out of that huddle quick, read, go through your progressions, and spread the ball around. The Jets are really coming together as a team right now. We've seen that the last 2 weeks. If they can beat the Vikings, they'll take the next step and set themselves up very good, because then they'll go to Chicago, and then they'll have the rematch against Miami before facing the Bills before the bye. If the Jets can get on a little bit of a run here, extend the run, I should say, before the bye, they'll be in this thing in the winter.
All right, Jets and Vikings at MetLife Stadium this Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. That does it for us here today at Practice Today, presented by SiriusXM. Be sure to watch Practice Today this Friday, 10:15 a.m. We have Ethan Greenberg, Eric Allen, and also be sure to watch Pregame Central, presented by Pepsi. You have Anthony Becht as well as EA. They are both on that show. That's all that we have for you guys, but continue to watch Twitter, social, everything we've got on NewYorkJets.com for all of your updates. See you then.